Live 2020 GSL Super Tournament Season 2.
What's up, everybody? We're back at the GSL Super Tournament. Our last StarCraft 2 cast of the year here in this studio.
Yeah.
TY versus Trap was almost too short for my liking. I kind of imagined that this was going to be very long, dramatic.
I was certainly
back and
hoping
forth
so.
games.
Well, it really highlights TY's only weakness, which is against a few of the best Protoss in the world.
Yeah. Now, here's why I'm a little bit worried, is that I thought this next series was the highest risk group for being super short and one-sided.
Highest risk
group.
Well,
Okay,
yeah. Stats got absolutely destroyed by Rogue in the finals of Season 2 this year.
Yeah, and Rogue honestly looks better than he's ever looked, and I'm not just saying that as like a hype guy. Like, go look at the games and you tell me. He looks like he actually improved on Perfect.
No, he looks completely broken right now.
Yeah.
If we were having the World Championship this weekend, I would just bet everything on him.
Oh, yeah.
Like
he looks
he's in his
untouchable.
tournament winning form. Like, I really think he'll win another Super Tournament.
Yeah, Rogue it's funny because he kind of goes in and out of being invincible.
Yeah.
Like, he's not always the best player, but when he is, some of his games, it's like, oh, that's about the best any mortal can be at StarCraft.
I feel like 1/3 the time he's the best player in the world.
Yeah.
And then 1/3 the time you just shake your head.
Yeah.
And the other third is just kind of mishmash.
You shrug your shoulders.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
Well, yeah, there's some percentage of the time where he shows up and the way he plays, I'm like, do you even want to be here? Is this the profession you want? But then the other times he's like, I am by far the best in the world. I'm like, whoa.
Here's your trophy and all your money.
Yeah. Anyways, Stats has definitely improved since Season 2. I think he's looking very good still.
Yeah.
And Stats, like, I guess Protoss vs. Zerg in general has evolved a lot since Season 2. Season 2 was a long time ago. Protosses are doing way better against Zerg right now than they were when he got second place in GSL.
That is right. No,
way better.
Back then, Protosses were actually a bit of an
literally
existential crisis. Yeah, as far as how to play this. Different situation now. Guys, this is our second best of 5. The winner goes on to face off against Trap in the Super Tournament Finals.
Africa Freaks. Stats.
Did he set a probe out before Pylon?
No, just to make the pylon at the thing. Right?
No, there's a probe already.
Dragon Phoenix Gaming. Rogue.
Okay. So yeah, Stats is going to block the hatch of Rogue here. The one thing I'm going to find very interesting stylistically from Stats is how he plays this. It seems like Trap's new build was ridiculous. Right?
Yeah.
Excuse me, he looked like unkillable lately in PvZ, which is actually like, oh, if Rogue beats Stats, we're going to have one hell of a PvZ finals. Trap is, I think it goes without question that Trap is the best PvZ in the world right now. He really does look it. But the thing is, there's been enough time that I could see Stats taking in that the Blink Stalker Disruptor timing attack, right?
I also want to throw out that if Stats actually wins this, not only is that a cool plot twist in Super Tournament, but I welcome a PvP final.
Oh, I'd be fine with
that. That would be great to see Stats and Trap duke it out in a best of 7 PvP.
Yeah. I think I would. I really wouldn't mind, though, because Trap looked so good PvZ, to see what that looks like. Trap and Rogue, and see if Rogue has answers for his 3-base Blink Disruptor timing that it seems like other Zergs just don't. Well, all that being said, everything looking pretty normal so far. We'll see as the Cybernex core finishes what type of tech Stats is going to want to go into.
Right.
You know what I can't wait for?
What?
The inevitable Adept Glaive build that's going to come in this series.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just not bored of that build yet.
No, every time that I see Adept Glaives coming out, I have to remember that I'm a caster and not just a fan of the build. I can't just chill.
It's not even a game. I don't even like the game without the build.
Yeah. I can't just cheer the whole time.
I would quit StarCraft if they nerfed Glaives at all.
Yeah.
Like, I need that build to just be here forever, and for every best of 5 to have that build one time.
StarCraft didn't even really exist until Adepts with Glaives came along.
Yeah.
You know, before then it was just two players smashing rocks together.
Yeah, no, I
trying to make fire.
I had a fever dream in 2003 when I was ready to quit StarCraft that one day there'd be a build that resonated so deeply in my soul and people would do it so much that I would truly find happiness. And that has happened in 2020.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah. Well, drat, we're not going to see the Glaives build here. There's a Stargate on the way.
Rats.
Phooey.
Phooey patooey.
Okay.
So, there's going to be an Oracle coming out now. Now, again, Protoss off and on have struggled against Zerg. And one of the things about Protoss that is, I mean, it's true for all the races to an extent, but I think more so true is that Protoss have more variance in how they can approach certain matchups.
Yes.
And that's primarily due to the fact like how pylons and the buildings operate, but also the way that the tech trees fork out in pretty specific directions. But a lot of Protosses have come with different styles against Zerg that have worked for a little bit, but not always. And so, you know, a best of 5 is it's a long series in StarCraft 2, so I'm very interested in seeing which builds Stats is going to elect and whether, I mean, let's say that Rogue wins, what variations Trap is going to have, because Trap is watching these games now. Trap is sitting here saying, I'm playing one of these two games, and I think for now all he can do is think about PvZ, right?
Oh, yes, of course. He's super happy right now to be watching this, right? It's going to give him a lot of prep time to see what Rogue is doing because, like, is Rogue good enough to save builds for Trap?
Yeah.
You know, maybe. Maybe he's in good enough shape right now, and Stats is a different enough level PvZ than Trap that Rogue can save some stuff. But I don't know. He might be pushed into showing his best. Now, I was actually going to say until we started getting into that I felt like this style that we're about to see out of Stats would suit him very, very well.
Yeah.
You remember Zest bringing out the 3 Stargate Void Ray where he would get the quick 3rd base and the quick 4th base and go into Storm? That type of style, because the Void Rays basically stop anything from attacking you and force them into Hydra, and then you go Storm to counter that. That feels like something that would really fit Stats' overall skill set and how he likes to approach games in general. So I'm very excited to see he's going 2 Stargate Void Ray right now. Because this is like, okay, you can't kill him for a really long time.
Yeah, and you can't even really fish around the edges of the base either. I mean, look at this. It's like, do you want to just lose these? What are you doing?
Yeah.
So that's very cool. But again, this is trademark Stats ideas at play.
Yes, yes.
You know, Stats is a longevity player. He wants to have the game go on for a while and then usually defend whatever big ideas the other side has, and then he finishes everything else in his tech tree and his army and wins from there. Yeah, it's among the harder ways to play. It makes for longer games, and you have to have a very good idea of all the other things the other race can do against you. But when you really master it, it's one of the hardest things to play against. I mean, everybody knows those games where you play against somebody and everything you try to do in the game doesn't work, and then they just have more and you die. It's like very frustrating to play against for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, so we saw 2 Drop Overlords, which is kind of interesting. I'm 99% sure I saw 2 Drop Overlords morphed.
Oh, did you? I actually missed that. Okay.
I'm pretty
there it
darn
is.
Sure. Okay, yeah. Those are full of queens, right? So he's he's going to do like a Ling Ravager-ish all in here.
Okay, I don't know if this is going to work though. I don't know how many queens it takes to fight off this many Void Rays either. I'm actually not clear.
Drop creep. There you go. Okay, now he can throw down like a creep tumor there and get the queens moving a lot quicker. It's an interesting move, no doubt.
Yeah, this is very, very different. This is definitely going to be all over the ladder now.
Well, it seems like a decent idea against the Void Rays, and this was only 2 Stargate Void Ray, not 3 Stargates, so he's actually down like 3 Void Rays less than he would have.
Yeah, but he's killing off all the queens.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, unless you just don't move the units, you can't win the fights against Ravager versus Void Ray. Void Rays just win, and so...
Well, he's going to kill the Nexus.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I mean, that was a lot of queens and a lot of Ravagers killed.
It feels like Stats is way ahead from that, right?
Yeah, no, I think so. In fact, can he counter with the Void Rays?
Yes, he should be able to. There's a Hydra's Den about halfway completed. he should have a little window, but maybe he's afraid of a continued attack. You see Rogue actually ran away, then turned the units around.
Well, yeah,
I think he realizes he has to keep pressure on to keep the Void Rays off of him.
Yeah, because you know, you don't need that many Lings to counterattack and force a canceled Nexus, but he'll be refilling this with ground units too. That's funny. It just he turns that around. Like, better off just making the Void Rays not keep moving as they shoot.
Yeah. Oh, a double Overlord Ling drop now. So will this force anything to come home? No, the Void Rays are going forward. I love it.
Keep in mind, Oracle's much better at killing off stuff like this than Void Rays. The Lings basically get to do whatever they want. It's going to take too long for the Void Ray to actually win the fight. Now, there's a counterattack in the main of the Zerg here. We don't have it on camera yet.
Oh, God, yeah, we see it in that picture-in-picture right now. He's actually killing the Hydras as they pop out. He's killing the Queens as well. He's going to lose some of the Voids, but, I mean, he's doing well with this. And if you stop for a second rallying units into this, he'll be able to kill your layer, so you have to keep sending units.
Queens out on the edge here, and he's just going to spray this down with these Void Rays.
Enough Hydras coming.
Is that enough? Oh, he's got some ground army coming. I was going to say, I'm like, I'm not used to casting a bunch of Void Rays ever fighting things, so this is this is quite a change. Now, I think the combination of ground, maybe Stats can actually snowball this.
Absolutely. The charge lots alone are going to do so well against the Hydras, and then you got the Void Rays shooting from above. Yeah,
and if you can just kill off the remaining Hydras here, I mean, you can move spores around all you want, but it doesn't mean it's going to catch up to the Void Rays.
Yeah, it looks like Rogue is just barely holding on everywhere here. He's got spores running around chasing Voids. He's got everything he can that can hit air here, trying to keep them back, but Stats continues to keep that pressure up.
But, you know, stabilizing on 3 bases is pretty huge here. Wow. And I think we're far from being finished in this game with the Void Rays. I mean, you can even see Hydras are coming forward, and like, yeah, Hydras are good against Void Rays, but when you have this many, keep in mind, every time we see all the Hydras die, that's a hard reset. He has to make more Hydras to even come out here and fight. There's actually a Ling counterattack, by the way, inbound here, headed towards the south, maybe to try to hit the 3rd base of Stats. I don't know what he has to defend there.
Yeah, I think he has enough. He has some Zealots there clearing out the creep. I know he has at least 1 shield battery there. It looks like he's making a couple cannons as well. So realizing he just kind of needs to hold on while keeping the pressure up. This has been a really interesting game, I think, on both sides. I especially like what Stats did here to change that type of style we saw from Zest a little bit earlier, which was, yeah, I guess that was in the last Codes season, right? We saw Zest busting out the cool Void Ray into Storm plays. Yeah. But that was with 3 Stargate. Now, imagine if he had, like, 3 more Voids against the initial attack. He just wrecks it.
I think we'd be in game 2 already.
Yeah, like, he won't even lose the Nexus.
Yeah.
But what he did was he sacrificed 1 Stargate of Void Rays to get much quicker Forge, much quicker Twilight. He was trying to get up the tech tree a little bit quicker, and then Rogue, like, with the instant, I don't know, I guess he attempted to punish. At the end of the day, it seems like Stats came out on top of that, but just very interesting ideas on both sides.
Okay, that's it. GG Stats crushing Rogue. Everything today, Artosis, is not what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Well, Rogue, like, his idea for the all-in was...
It was very cool. It was very novel.
Bringing the Queens up, getting some creep, trying to use those as anti-Void Ray. It seems like you correctly read that it was not through Stargate Void. So, you know, there's something there.
There's also a unique dilemma here for Rogue. Yes, to win a best-of-5 against Stats, and then a best-of-7 against Trap if he wins the whole tournament. That's a lot of PvZ.
It is a lot. Yeah.
And, you know, you can't be too repetitious. I mean, these players do try to counter each other's styles, so... I think that was one pocketed build he had to try to throw Stats off, and not. He would probably not reuse that against Trap in this case. But every time Stats
he won't use that again. Period. I think.
I think you're right, guys. Game 2's up and loaded. It's going to be on Romanticide. Let's go.
Game start. Afrika Freaks. Stats. Dragon Phoenix Gaming, Rogue.
And you know what, Tasteless? If Rogue's build there, if that build doesn't stop what Stats did, that makes Stats' version of this Void Ray rush into, like, Storm and Charge type thing much stronger than Zest's. much stronger. If you can go one less Stargate Void Ray, because honestly, the Void Ray is one of those silly units. It's like a Hellbat, or Hellbat. Oh my God. Yeah. It's like it's one of these units where they have enough or they don't.
Right.
It's what do we call those, like skill tester unit or skill check? I'm like losing all my words right now. But it's just there's not that much to it. There's not that much play with Void Rays. You can fly around a little bit, hit an extractor, but if they have enough, the Void Rays kind of just have to run away.
The Void Ray, the way it's designed, is not a unit. It's not like an Immortal where like there's so many reasons to have it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like and it is sort of the black sheep unit of the game in a lot of ways, which is why when it is brought out occasionally, it throws people off because it's just not like you're not like, oh well, that's fine. These 4 Void Rays are going to be used much later on for this.
Yeah.
It has a funny function in the build we saw in Game 1 because you make enough that even though they're not great against Lings, there's more than one Void Ray, so like it's actually going to make Lings kind of useless anyways, instead of having an Oracle.
Then all you need is kind of like enough shield batteries to fudge anything, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you can heal your Nexus if you need to or whatever.
Yeah, it's just it sort of changes the dynamic of the game, but then also in that game, Rogue went for an unusual Queen drop, like all in with Ravagers and Lings, and so it was very circumstantial, but in that moment you realize he doesn't have that much anti-air. I just killed like 4 or 5 Queens here. So then now I actually can suddenly attack.
Yeah.
Like anybody who watched that last game, you can't just make Void Rays and then fly over there and start killing stuff.
No.
Or you're going to be very confused as to how you use these units at all. But
that's only going to work at low levels.
Yeah. But in that game, because the all-in backfired, suddenly the Void Ray is a unit that can be almost game-winning in a counterattack.
Yeah, and just the fact that it held that, because, I mean, just look at what Rogue did there. If you're going for a regular 3 hatchery opening and they go into this build, that's the most aggressive you can be, the quickest you can be.
Right.
And if that doesn't work, it just makes Stats build so much better, in my opinion, than like a 3 Stargate. Because, like you said, right, the Void Rays aren't going to scale all that well. He's going to get into charge quicker. He's going to get into storm quicker. Whatever he wants, basically, he's going to get quicker. The Void Rays are this stopgap where he does have the counterattack potential, and he's completely safe. So, yeah, I'm really excited, actually, about it. It's super cool to see this evolution come out of Stats. This is what happens, man, when the metagame settles a little bit for him, and he can play around and be like, oh, here's how I can change this build. Oh, 2 Stargate Void Ray, that's plenty of defense. I can hold everything. Yeah. And if they commit enough that they actually kill the Nexus, I just counterattack.
Yeah, then you've overextended. So, who knows what's going to happen in Game 2 and what results we're going to have. But if Stats wins this, dude, we might have that PvP finals.
Yeah, it's a real possibility. I wonder who would actually even win that.
I have no clue. Maybe Trap, but I really don't know.
Maybe Stats, but I don't know.
I guess we can only wait and see.
Oh, maybe. Or maybe Rogue just comes back and wins.
It's Rogue doesn't lose a single game from here on out. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. No, it could be, too. Like we were saying, it's not like he played poorly that game. He chose to do a very sharp all-in. It didn't work. He got punished.
against the best defensive Protoss in the world.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, well, that's not a crazy result to have. If someone does an insane all-in and Stats barely holds and then wins.
Totally.
So
this is a very different build than what we saw last game. Yes, he has the Void Ray, but he's not going second Stargate. Instead, he's going for Glaives relatively quickly while taking a 3rd base.
Yep.
We did see someone else do this build, and I can't remember off the top of my head which Protoss it was, but you just kind of put on some pressure with this overall, and he should build up to a pretty strong army. I think we'll see a Robo come up relatively soon.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
So there's going to be more and more Adepts coming out here. There's a dozen Lings being made here for Zerg. But again, Stats really the master of the balancing act, right? Of having just enough defense. I like this.
Yeah, that's a very cool move. Has to move it to the correct patch. A lot of Adepts being made. There's a decent amount of Lings out on the map. They're not going to be able to find damage, that's for sure. Maybe he's going to sit back defensively with
He's
them.
still making Lings, Artosis.
Oh, he might do like a Ling Queen? But
yeah.
he's playing against... This is not the same build. This is not
No. This is very different, but I'm actually very intrigued by what I'm seeing here. Keep in mind that it's one Void Ray out, and that Oracle already used energy on that, trying to stun the workers. Oracles kill Lings pretty fast unless they don't have any energy, in which case they don't do anything.
Rogue is going to find he chose the wrong time, the wrong build to do this against. He actually gets the best engagement that he really could right there, but it's mostly Lings attacking, so the Adepts are going to trade all right.
Yeah, they're getting lower in numbers. They're going to shade into the main now, but how much HP is really left on these? I mean, we don't have the ticker up. Yeah, we do now. The ticker up for how many workers have been killed, but 2 is no number to be proud of for a strategy like this. And I don't know, man. It does seem like Rogue is just steamrolling this attack. I mean, it's annoying. It's hard to deal with, but this isn't the damage I think the Stats wanted to have.
It is not, but Rogue was getting ready to do some sort of all-in against Stats anyways, so I think it's still all right for him. Rogue was sitting at 41 drones that entire time.
Yeah.
So it's almost as if the Adepts did damage because they basically stopped an attack that Rogue was preparing to do that he already, cut his own drones for. And then it killed the stuff that he cut the drones for. So I feel like right now this is good for Stats. Absolutely, yeah. Look at this. He's on 3 base. I can't imagine him taking damage at the moment. Maybe if you get into like a Ling Hydra Bane, you're going to be in a good shape here.
That's actually,
but I think you got to
possibly
pretty much
what he's going to do here.
Yeah. Oh, he's actually going Lurker Den.
Huh.
Okay, well that points us towards a very, he's going to go for a very prolonged game.
He's going for Planetary Busters.
Yes, Planetary Busters, exactly.
So let's see what kind of PvZ we're going to be in here for, because this is already looking pretty unique.
Well, since he's going for Lurkers, and the first Robo is finishing just now.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're going to have enough Immortals or Disruptors to really bust. So even though Rogue doesn't have the best economy that he's really used to having, there's no way to kill him. And there's not going to be a way for him to kill Stats, I think. So it feels like this game is going to go big. But it definitely does feel to me like Stats is advantaged.
I got to point out that the 4th base for Stats was taken before the 4th for Rogue.
Yeah.
And what is a role reversal here?
Yeah.
In this matchup, Zerg is always out expanding Protoss. If they're not, they're behind. So, but the way that Lurkers operate, it might be fine for Rogue anyways.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's going for something that's pretty cost efficient, but
right.
Stats is already preparing carrier tech.
Yeah. Now, it's funny because Robotech really stops Lurkers, Disruptors, and Immortals, like you were saying earlier. But if you get into carriers, the Lurkers are just...
They don't do anything.
They can't interact with carriers in any way.
Well, actually, it forces Zerg into this weird situation where they basically have to utilize the Lurkers to zone out High Templars, right? So they can use Vipers and Hydras and stuff to try to combat the carriers. So, Stats is dictating the game. There's no question there. Rogue is making some choices that are going to allow him to keep playing, and that's good. That's good. That's what we want to see after the kind of hiccup to his economy early on.
A shade coming forward here.
What do you think that Lurker was doing over there? What was he doing? Was he a scouting Lurker?
He's a scouter Lurker, man. I've got to tell the others.
Yeah.
Well, Stats is, and we've actually had some Protosses tinker with this throughout the last 2 years, but he's going to go for that carrier play. And I'm trying to figure out what the next step is here for Rogue, right? He has Lurker tech, but that's not going to do anything once we have 6 or 9 carriers out here.
Nice.
Oh my god, I didn't even realize how memey I am when I cast Artosis.
Yeah. All right, well, the Prism is out. He sees that there's 3 carriers already created, 3 more on the way. Yeah, it's becoming one of those big games, Tasteless. Put on your seatbelt.
Buckle up.
Or take off your seatbelt maybe, because we're just going to be cruising for a bit.
Mothership coming here as well. And this is funny. They're both just growing at the same rate. It looks kind of like it's a mirror matchup right now, like a PvP.
Yeah.
With Creep on one side. Here we go. Vipers are coming in.
You know, the one thing that is, I guess, a little bit off, generally in a game that's progressing like this, the Zerg is keeping a little bit of pressure on Protoss.
Yeah.
Like, they'll have, like, a little bit of a tech jump on the Protoss, whereas he's trailing right behind Stats.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, Stats is the lead here.
One weird thing about this, too, I mean, we don't get games with carriers all the time when we get to cast PvZs, but they are... It's not as bad as Broodlords, but there's a lot of the same ideas. Is like you don't have to attack where the carriers are. But carriers move much more quickly than Broodlords.
Yeah.
I mean, they can kind of trail behind. Like, they're actually faster than Templars.
Templars are pretty slow.
Yeah. But is there going to rely on counterattacks? I mean, it seems like a couple lurkers that probably can't even fight the carriers would be ample units to try to counterattack and just obliterate a Nexus here and there. As long as you have enough to defend at home.
Yeah.
And that's why we have a lot of spores coming down now.
Well, speaking of which, and yeah, I think it's really smart for them to make a bunch of spores right now. I would really like to see Recall utilized with this Mothership. It feels like quite a good move because the whole front of Zerg is going to be very well defended, but if you can find some way in for a nice Recall, take out a bunch of the key structures in the main or something like that, then Recall out with a Nexus, I think that is...
I think if we're going to have that, it's going to be up through the top.
Yeah.
And the Mothership will just slide over into the main, do that recall. And I think you're right. I think that's when the Hydras are going to be completely destroyed by Storm. Trying to come back into your own main to stop a huge drop or a recall is when you run into a lot of positional problems.
I'm a big fan of moves like that.
Because it's suddenly the roles are reversed. The whole reason why it's hard to rush into somebody's main and never kill them, especially early on, is that it's a tight, narrow area on high ground, and all their stuff can attack you while you're trying to get into a better position. But yeah, when you get the recall in there, suddenly the roles are reversed, and it's hard for you to recover your own main, and therefore a lot of your key tech. And also all your expansions are usually not that far from the main, so they can be hit from a superior position after that's been hit.
And of course you have that secondary recall on the Nexus, right? So you can get out your key units, which is so important.
If things are going poorly, you just switch.
Yeah, I feel like you should... look, he's actually prepping for exactly what we're talking about by putting those spores on that side, because he knows, like you said, Tasis, that's by far the most likely location for him to slip in through. All right, so a little bit of poking going on here. We see some important buildings. He's going to take some of those out. There's a lot of Stack D as those High Templars. And this is that kind of zoning dance that we were talking about before.
Yeah.
One thing to point out is that they're both kind of completing tech right now. We saw Rogue add in, for instance, an Ultralisk Cavern that can become very useful. Ultralisks with their splash damage and high armor can actually sometimes go under the carriers and eliminate High Templars.
Right.
And then over
Tempest.
look at that. I love that he's adding some Tempest. That's going to allow him to zone very well and to pick off things like Vipers better, which is basically that's what you're scared of this whole time. But also he's getting Blink, and he added a bunch of gateways. Because, you know, games like this very oftentimes go into that weird situation where you both lose your armies, and if you remax instantly on Blink Stalkers and Zealots, you can actually kill a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, this is kind of...
I'm like, what am I? There's an observer somewhere here, right?
Come on, come on.
So the Lurkers have really been pretty quiet most of this game. Never really found a moment they could be used that well.
By the way, I'm kind of excited about the way that this game is going, just because Rogue has, in my opinion, always been like at the forefront of supreme late game of Zerg.
Yeah.
Like, he's always been the guy that like figures out exactly how to play these positions. That's how he won his first, how he won the World Championship. Not first, well, his only one, so his first. Let's call it his first because he's winning 2021. But you know, it was on the back of that, of just playing superbly in this type of position. And right now, it's, you know, you look at this and maybe you could say that, like, is stats winning? I don't know. Like, he's not actually getting anything done. Let's see if he does. I love the Tempest coming out, by the way. I want to see his, make the orange upgrade, whatever that's called.
Yeah, this is, like, such a perfect army. And now we're going to have Corruptors getting forced out.
Oh, yeah.
And
Corruptor
this is...
balls, man.
Say what?
Corruptor balls, that's what it's all about.
That's, yeah, that's StarCraft at its finest. But the Corruptor is a funny unit.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got to throw this in there.
Yeah, please.
He started the Void Ray upgrade and then canceled it and went for the Tempest upgrade. Is that like you don't know what key or you're clicking on it and you're reading it? You're like, wait a minute, I don't get into too many of these.
No. Void Ray. No, that's not the one I want.
Yeah.
Now, good pulling here. He's actually having to use 2 pull commands to even get the carriers over there, and they still actually live through it. Insane.
Oh, my God.
And if he puts that in the back, that's just, it's going to be very hard to ever kill that carrier. This map is getting cut in half from top to bottom, which might lead to one of the most interesting end games we've had because there's 4 expansions in the middle of the map.
Yeah.
From north to south.
I actually, yeah.
So I don't know. You know, normally we can say that there's going to be one base on one side of the map that should be the deciding area. I don't know how this game looks.
Yeah.
And they both have sort of mobile armies, but not really.
This is super cool. I'm just very happy to see these 2 players doing this. So we're actually getting some great data here on how this should end up looking. Now I love that you added in the Tempest too, because sometimes you see really great Protoss pros and they'll just make more carriers. But I think when you get the Tempest, I think it actually adds way more versatility in your army.
Yeah.
It helps you zoning out all the Corruptors and the Vipers, but also with this new Tempest damage upgrade, you bust Spores. He made 5. He can one-shot Spores now as this upgrade finishes. Tectonic Destabilizers, that's it. You can one-shot Spores. That's amazing.
This is, I think, going to come down to a drawn-out, like, battle in the south over this, like, bottom left quadrant of the map. Zerg maybe can squeeze back in here in the top center, but Protoss is basically expanding into this area so that you can have both these expansions covered and still be putting the pressure on here.
Ooh, look at that. Nice grab there.
How many Vipers are actually there, by the way?
I don't know. I do know that he's making a bunch of Void Rays right now, which is not what I expected.
No. Now, I think this base has to be abandoned.
This is a great move.
Yeah, for sure.
And he actually doesn't have Dark Templar tech now that I realize it, but actually Rogue brings in an Overseer knowing that that would be the easiest way to defend such an expansion.
Yeah.
But look at this. Rogue is actually wrecking right now. Like, he is sniping carriers and killing a base at the same time.
Yeah. And there's so much static defense to try to push through here. I guess the Void Rays are just to sort of be here in front to try to just absorb damage and draw fire.
Yeah, and I mean, Void Rays definitely can kill Corruptors if you have the right numbers.
Seems like for a second they were right-clicked on one of those Overseers and getting pulled a little bit too far back here. Oh, this Observer's going to go down.
Sat still has a gigantic bang, so definitely not the end of this. He can definitely remake.
I guess you got to keep in mind that air weapons and armor are being upgraded here too, and I don't really ever factor in that and what that does to Void Rays, but obviously it's going to make them much stronger.
Yeah, that's a good point. But it kind of adds a lot of power to Vipers too, right? Like, you have that big clump of Void Rays, and Parasitic Bomb just becomes a great answer.
That's true, but I guess, you know, how many Vipers are you going to have in these fights? Not that many, right?
So I guess none right now.
You pretty much want to just try to power through that. And at this angle here, I almost think that we can see stats just keep pushing here. And it's going to be hard for... Oh my God.
That's a clump of 40 Corruptors.
Yeah.
Do you know how much damage those storms did?
Yeah, it's hard to really explain just how much value that one spell is getting when it hits that many units. And again, it keeps happening. It almost seems like you'd want these on multiple hotkeys to spread them out.
Yeah, kind of. Like you want them all to shoot at the same time too, though, because 40 Corruptor shots is silly damage. Okay, I'm actually going to look up exact numbers for this while we're watching this.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll keep
cool.
casting. There's another attack coming down. I love the tagging of that. That way he can just monitor the movement. And there's a base just to the left of this that it's pretty clear Stats wants to wipe out. And he just basically wants to, one by one, take each location out. Big success there. And he's probably going to push up north. And again, if Zerg can't muster the defensive army to stop this, this game is going to eventually end.
God.
This is sort of what an alien invasion would probably actually look like if we just couldn't stop it, where it's like we tried everything. We used our H-bombs and that didn't work, and we tried chemical warfare and, you know.
But look at that. He gets some parasitic bombs down, doing huge amounts of damage to this army. The shields are gone there, but look at that. He's got Archons in here as well against the Corruptors. The Corruptors look like they'll clear everything, but there's going to be all these ground units left over.
And this is something that happens to Zerg when they win the fight, which is like, well, what do you do if there's no upgrade to make those things hover low on the ground? And so it's bunk supply.
Well, does he have a greater spire?
I don't think he does, actually.
That's painful.
Yeah, because now the ground army wins.
Yeah, and look at this. He's adding more voids, which basically counter everything that he can do right now.
Oh, he does have a greater spire. I'm sorry. He would have to have because he's still upgrading air units, of course. But I think Protoss just plays a different game from here.
Yeah, he's switching to that ground army that, you know, he did not really neglect. By the way, I looked up, right? So each time a Psystorm is hitting that clump of 40 Corruptors, it's like even if you pull it away immediately, it's still dealing about 1,000 damage.
Like, 1,000 damage.
Yeah. How insane is that?
Yeah. It sounds like something a little kid would say.
Yeah.
It did 1,000 damage.
Yeah,
like,
40
stop.
Corruptors, they're all stacked. One Psystorm hits them all. If you get them out of there in a second,
it
takes you 1 second to get it out, that's 800 damage.
This is so many Archons. That is a lot of Archons. That's a lot of Archons.
Not going to lie.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to kill that with Banelings. Yeah.
Yeah, right, bro.
Dark, like, resurrects from his last round loss and just kills all with Banelings.
Yeah. And he has that one Ultralisk at 1/4 HP left. We're like, oh, Dark.
Nest's ghost high-fives him.
Yeah. He's standing off to the side like one of those Star Wars ghosts nodding. Rogue has one base that's viable.
Yeah, it's not looking too hot, is it?
And he has half the supply in a situation that Stats brilliantly forced. I absolutely love this. And I think he's not too far away from ending this game here.
No, he looks so strong.
I think he's just trying to make sure he's like crossing his T's and dotting his I's.
You may as well do it carefully.
Level 3 in his shields, you know. Everything else you could need to just come in here and flatten this player.
I think he needs, if Rogue's going to have any shot, I think he needs a few more Broodlords just to clump everything up so that it's harder for Stats to advance. Yeah. Let's see here. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, does a lot of damage.
Am I wrong? I mean, there's so many Archons here. Don't you splash damage down the Broodlings anyways? Am I wrong about this?
Well, you do kill the Broodlings really quickly, but it stalls them a little bit, right? Because they do have to stop and attack.
Yeah, I guess there's Lurkers in the back as well.
Yeah, exactly. The Lurkers are going to be what is actually dealing damage here. But he doesn't have enough Broods and he doesn't have enough Lurkers.
It's the Ultra Centipede coming in here, man. Oh, never mind. Yeah, like, the Ultras are coming down. This is some cool, scrappy defense. Like 2 Lurkers with some, or 3 Lurkers with some Broodlings, like, just in front of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you can't really push through there without accidentally losing everything. Okay, oh, look at this.
Oh, I like that. He recalls a group that has the Immortals in it.
Yeah.
Immediately, Rogue runs away. So I think Rogue is making good moves, but so much of the game is already played out, right? He was behind early on. He kind of caught up and made some really strong moves, but Stats is, like, the way he rotated his army through, right? It was like Carrier, and then it was Carrier Tempest, and then he added the Voids and the ground units, and suddenly it's like, well, 40 Corruptors is no longer good against Archon Blink.
Look at this crazy position that Rogue's in. Stats has almost 5K, well, I guess now 4K minerals, 5.5 in gas. He's maxed out. He has more bases, and he's taking more bases. Rogue is barely scraping by at 123 supply. His gas is going up at a depressingly slow rate.
Yeah.
And right now, Stats is inches away from closing this game out.
Yeah, I think that Rogue is really trying his best here to get Stats to throw away his army, and then maybe Rogue feels like he has a shot if he's remaxing in like air again.
Rogue is a fighter, you know, like he's going to stay in this as long as he can and see if he can't come up with something here. But this is looking like impossible for any Zerg to win.
Oh yeah, especially here. Like his army supply is decent. He just doesn't have any economy.
GG. Guys.
Wow, Stats is up 2-0. This is not what I expected, but he is playing really nicely. But then again, twice in a row, Rogue is like, I'm just going to load up these Overlords. I'm going to play like I'm Ragnarok 3 years ago.
Yeah, that's
We're
what
going to do
Ragnarok
Queen Drop and Lings. That's it. You know what? Ragnarok already had it figured out.
I am wondering if Rogue can actually come back and 3-0 this. I mean, if any Zerg could, it would be him, but what a weird day. Protoss OP, they were right. Reddit did know all along.
Yeah, no, totally.
It wasn't until just before 2021 that the Protoss has figured out how to win. We're going to go on Oxide here, and if Rogue can't stop him, no Zerg can, and it's going to be a PvP
Game
final.
Start. Afrika Freaks. Stats. Dragon Phoenix Gaming. Rogue.
You know, I really want to see Rogue not set up for some weird Queen Drop, Ling, or Roach.
He's not going to. Artosis, look in my eyes. He's not going to do that.
Okay, because I want to see him not be, like, behind right at the beginning of the game again. Because that's where...
He is putting himself... He's making it pretty hard on himself by not just playing, I think, a long game where he's reacting. I think the idea is cool. And I think most Protosses just completely die outright to it, and then Rogue retires the strategy and moves on. But right now, like, it doesn't look like anything's working here.
You know, what Rogue did game 1, it felt a little bit like he had ideas for it, but it was a little bit on the fly, and it just kind of didn't work. And then it felt like game 2, he looked at what didn't work about it, and he fixed it. Right? It was coming out a little bit quicker, and it was only Lings, so it wasn't as crazy as the Game 1 version of it, which was like Roach and Ravager with the Lings. So, like, basically he was spending less to do the same thing the next game, but Stats wasn't going to Stargate Void Ray. He was going Glaive to Depth, so it was like, well, he already has stuff that fights Lings. Because Mass Ling, Void Rays have a hard time with that. They don't kill Lings that quickly. Right? And then they have to fight the Queens, and then you actually clear a bunch of stuff with the Lings. But he ran into the wrong strat, so it felt like he was almost blind countering the same strat from Stats without the intel. Because he was definitely caught off guard when he was going across the map when the Adepts came. Yeah. Like, his Lings literally met them in the middle, and he turned around and unloaded his Queen. So it was like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was. So I almost feel like Rogue is trying to pull a fast one on Stats twice in a row.
No, I totally agree with what you're saying. Also, what a funny situation that last game was. Like, this nearly unstoppable air fleet that forces Zerg into 40 Corruptors.
Mm-hmm.
And we see this, it's been a theme, not the loudest theme, but it is around in StarCraft 2, is when Corruptors win major air fights, they usually can't win games. Yeah. Like, they stop you from losing, but then you're like,
yeah.
Okay, it's kind of like all those people that invested all their money in Beanie Babies, and now they just have stuffed animals sitting around, and they're not worth anything.
Are they not?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't think they're not like Magic cards or something, right? Those are going up in value, but no, like Beanie Babies, Pogs. It's one of those things where it's like, oh, this is what you need to get now. They thought, but then like you've got 40 Corruptors, they can try to ooze down buildings, but I mean, and the reality is they can't fight ground at all.
Yeah.
And you see what looks like a very early game basic Protoss army suddenly winning all the fights because of the supply, the cost, everything else that it takes to get 40 Corruptors so that you don't lose the game. From there, Stats has double or triple the bases even, and sort of sits back and plays a control game, and the Zerg just is zoned out of winning. It's a really interesting thing, and it's funny because it's never how Zergs normally lose games. The way that Zergs normally lose games is they barely can't handle a push.
Yeah.
The other side has less bases, but just a little bit more power, just a little bit better control in the fights. The creep wasn't spread out, and eventually they are evened out onto bases. In this one, the Zerg has one base that can't be broken, almost as if it's the Protoss or the Terran in a role reversal here, and instead it's the Protoss that looks like the Zerg at the end with 3 or 4 more bases.
Well, this is like a fundamental way that you're supposed to play against Zerg, is making them make units that you want them to make.
Yes.
Much of PvZ in the early game over the years has been forcing Zerg to make roaches. Because, like, you know, the roach is going to be the unit that you can actually fight efficiently as the game gets longer. So a lot of it, like Archon drop and things like that, have been about forcing that.
Right.
And then, of course, we have the offshoot builds like the 2 Stargate Phoenix, which was to punish the blind roaches that Zergs are making, right?
Right.
But this is just the very late game equivalent. The late game roach is the corruptor. It's the thing that keeps you alive, but sucks after it keeps you alive.
Yeah, and then you end up with strategic gridlock on your end, where you're like, well, I can't get anywhere now with these things. It's a really interesting thing in StarCraft 2 that can happen.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense. And you see Protoss players nowadays, it's just like they're getting Blink while making their carriers and making sure they're getting Forge upgrades. And then it's suddenly Corruptors against like Stalkers and whatever else, Archons, you know, stuff like that. So it's tough, which means we're going to have to see, you know, Zerg come up with some ideas on how to, I guess, more carefully counter that. Like, do you have some infestors ready so that Blink doesn't work as well? Like, what? How do you approach it? It's tough because the Corruptors are such flying paperweights at that point.
Well, also you see them overmade.
Yeah.
Like when you win a fight and there's still 30 of these things, it's like, okay, that was actually probably too much then.
Yeah.
This should have been invested into something else.
Yeah.
If you ever win something so hard that almost all of the units that you made in that are still there, and then you lose the game, it's like, okay, well, this is...
Yeah, like, is it too much? It's an interesting thing, right? By the way, yeah, so Corruptors deal 14 damage base. So, like, every time 40 shoot, my god, that is...
Yeah.
It's like 600 damage about. Wow.
Now
so that's why they're getting so many, right? So they can just kill things instantly.
Yeah, yeah. Now we're in for a very different game this time around. This is a much more straightforward PvZ. This is what a lot more PvZs actually look like. And this one's going to be a fight over the 4th that we're going to see right now. Nice stasis. 2 Ravagers just immediately killed off there. And this is, you know, the way that, in a straight-up fashion, Protosses tend to just win games is killing off the 4th base over and over, and then you just don't really have that much.
He does hit a bile onto the Prism, but doesn't quite get it, forcing everything back.
Oh, good save on the Immortal. He nearly killed the hatchery off. But now we're seeing the Zerg start to come in here, and I think narrowly the War Prism's killed off. Is there actually enough here for Protoss to win this fight? I'm not so sure.
Well, that's a Hero Oracle there. That's put in a lot of extra damage. But with the Prism gone, it's like you're not going to be able to finish him off.
And another Immortal started back home, so unless there was a Prism made before we saw that, it does look like Zerg gets the 4th, and the game goes on.
Yeah, it does end up holding there. You know, it has an okay drone count overall, 67, not too bad right now. Definitely full 3-base saturation, but Stats has that too. He is missing a bit though, right? We don't really have the upgrades. +1 attack on the way, charge on the way, so his army is not... That's not an enviable army that Stats has right now. That being said, throws down a 4th, all right.
So, excuse me. This is the kind of game that Rogue tends to thrive in. These types of moments where he's held off pushes, his growth isn't being hindered, and he's going to finally get to go into his own control game.
Yeah. You see, he's ahead right now tech-wise, even though, you know, worker-wise it's not like as high as maybe he wants quite yet, but he's already got his Hive up. He's going for the Lurker Den. right? So he's kind of getting into the things he wants. His creep spread's looking pretty solid overall.
The counter punch from Rogue is going to come here in a second. We have 18 more lings being made. I don't know if he's waiting for lurkers to come in for the counter attack, or if that's just him filling in the empty slots of tech here.
I love these oracles and what they've gotten done this game. Kill a couple Ravagers there.
Okay, immediately lurkers are being made. It's no secret, by the way. This army has been pinged. And so, with the 4th base coming, but supply very inferior to that of the Zerg, we may have that attack coming in here on the Protoss' 4th. He doesn't have to, though. They can just both stay back. I mean, Zerg is taking now a 5th base.
He is going to have to do something with the Roaches. The Roaches definitely don't have very much staying power with this army.
Yeah, this isn't an army that you can have throughout the rest of the game. It needs to be used. He needs to try to find some value in it somehow. I don't know.
I think that's what he's trying right here, right? Like he's acting like he's going to attack. Well, he probably is going to attack, but that's going to force stats to come up and engage. Maybe you can trade the Roaches reasonably well. But yeah, you definitely see a very big difference between this game and the last game. In the last game, it was like stats getting into the carriers very, very quickly. Here he is going towards them, but Rogue kind of dictating it a bit more, right? He's keeping the pressure on while both sides are going up, whereas he was playing defensively in the last game.
Okay, he backs up. Again, Stats is really the master of defense here. But Zerg is growing at a rate where eventually the Protoss is going to have to fight across the map. For now, though, it looks like Zerg's going to set up a positional dilemma for the Protoss. With lurkers on this high ground area, it's hard to move anything through there. All locations of value are going to be towards the left for a little bit. Oh, man.
Yeah, very good burrow.
Yeah.
Holds that high ground. Very difficult to actually engage this. Does have the oracles to tag. Has a decent amount of Psystorm here as well. Now he is getting into carriers. As those carriers pop out and he gets interceptors for him, you know, he's going to be able to fight here reasonably well. This small amount of Hydras shouldn't make that much of a difference against him.
The lurkers are going to be quite obsolete as well. But this is the only thing keeping the Zerg from just breaking in and destroying 3 different locations. Really, this is like the hub entrance for Protoss here.
He can control it. You can pick bases off.
Yeah, he can find the weakest one and then dive into it. But you can see it's like barely. There's just enough. Ooh, a little bit of an overextension there by Stats. Yeah. Now look at this. Everything's over on the right, except for this Immortal. Should not have stepped out that far. And so he can start to try to edge in. But in the nick of time, I think these carriers come in, and suddenly the Zerg has to abandon this. Really good hold here by Stats when you consider the fact that, like, we were about to see a Protoss get broken before these units came in to save the day.
Now, that being said, honestly, I think we just saw Rogue do exactly what he wanted to do, and in fact, kill some of the probes there and everything. But remember, we were just talking about how he needs to trade the Roaches reasonably well. Yeah. His lurker count throughout that grew, and he lost all the Roaches, and he eliminated High Templars, Immortals, Archons. You know, he did well. That was like perfectly executed way to change his army composition. This is the real Rogue here. Well, I guess both the Rogues are the real Rogue. The cheesy one that sometimes wins for free.
The first 2 were the fake Rogues, all right? That's not even the real Rogue. That guy's a poser, all right? He's gone.
He's over, man.
He's over, dude.
Look at this. The creep spread is immaculate. It's all the way up into Stats' base, almost. Rogue right now sitting on 5 bases very nicely. A huge Lurker Hydra army walking through the center of the map. He's getting his Spire now. He realizes, you know what, we might need to go into 40 Corruptors later, so better get that Spire up.
Yeah. Now, Protoss has not lost bases here. There are not probes mining at 12 o'clock, but, like, there's a lot of similarities happening in this game as it continues to move forward here, where the carriers are now out and the Zerg is now being forced to make Corruptors. Now, is this going to be handled better this time from Rogue? I hope so.
Well, yeah, I think this time we're going to see the Rogue actually attack with this, right? He was on the defense the entire game last game because he was behind. It was Stats that was like rushing forward into the high tech, whereas Stats is following Rogue this game. Ooh, it kind of that was a weird move. I guess he assumed that the units would go over to save this Nexus, but just the fact that he didn't send probes there, I think, showed that Stats knew he couldn't hold that location.
Yeah, no, I think he's just like... The Zerg wants there to be too many locations for the Protoss to defend so that he can start to take things apart. And this is like a really advanced move by Stats, is to have the Nexus just not mining from it, because he's like...
He says, screw it, I can't,
yeah, he's
I
like,
can't do it.
Why, I can get minerals here. I don't need to have every base right now. I need to not lose my core unit composition. And so...
Yeah, it's going to sound simple, but it's actually really deep.
No,
if you can't defend something, don't defend it.
Yeah, and I think almost every other player in the world would have been...
They'd be like, oh, let me
doing
go over
everything.
and save that. And then
Yeah.
the
Oh, no,
lurkers run up and kill the other base.
Okay, here we go. Storms blanketing these
Yeah.
Corruptors. The Corruptors, the spread's pretty nice, but you
Very
know,
good
the
Storms.
carriers remain a real threat as we have Void Rays coming out in sets of 3.
And he's going to reposition here. Going to get his lurkers broed at a beautiful spot. Look at that.
Now again, it's not a win for the Zerg, even if all the carriers are picked off. That's where the Protoss tries to get a unit comp that suddenly these Corruptors are not that good with.
Yeah. Unfortunately for Stats, he doesn't really have much of a bank, so I think he needs to
Oh my God.
really work on keeping that alive. Yeah, denies the +2 air attack.
Nice size storm there. These Hydras are chipping away here, and there was a lurker over at the minerals. I don't know if it's been picked off, but that will really hurt if he loses all those probes there. Something's happening at 6 o'clock as well, and I don't know what it is.
Oh yeah, look at that.
But I think all
Maybe
the
a
drones
couple
are being
Zealots or
killed off
something.
there.
Yeah, it looks like 14 drones died. All right, he comes in, and actually is going to be able to take out these lurkers, which means he can clear everything. The lurkers were really what was zoning him out.
Yeah, there's more lurkers coming here, but this is going to be not enough. Actually, a pretty crazy victory there for Stats. And I think we're going to get a shot of it now at 6, no?
Yeah, we had a
There it
picture-in-picture
is.
there for a moment. He just
I'm
barely
sorry.
saves that.
I'm sorry, guys. Artosis' screen gets the picture-in-picture and mine doesn't, so I'm like always not seeing what you guys are seeing.
Yeah, it was in my contract. I just get more information.
Yeah, you just get more.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I think that Stats is if he can make the next few moves correctly, because he's on the offense now. And by the way, top left is taken by Zerg. It's not being mined from.
All right, here we go. He's got a huge amount of Corruptors. He's trying to spread them out here because there's so much Size Storm. Some good Size Storms do end up going down. Oh my God.
my
The Archons
God.
and Zealots shredding through as well.
Not just the. Oh my God!
That's it. Wow.
Stats. It's Protoss Day.
It is.
Of course, the aliens were gonna win.
Yeah.
You think it was going to be a bunch of insects or humans with their bad technology that would win?
that doesn't even make sense.
What are you talking about?
You fools.
This isn't a movie. This is a video game.
Yeah. So that's really impressive. I mean, we were talking up Rogue big time because he did look so strong in the earlier rounds. He did fail a couple all-ins against Stats in the first 2 games, but this one, he defended Stats' attack reasonably well and led on the tech going up, but Stats' anti-corruptor play served him too well. Like, when Rogue going for this many corruptors, it seems like Stats is not going to lose to that.
I can't believe we just saw Stats destroy Rogue 3-0.
Yeah. Well, that third game, I think, was in many ways the most impressive one.
Yeah, well, he knows exactly how to play the Zerg and exploit that corruptor situation. So it's a PvP finals, guys, up next. Longer break this time around, but when we come back, we're going to decide who will be the champion of the GSL Super Tournament.